Oh, certainly I've experienced some of the feelings that Pink experiences. I mean, I think that most people have experienced part of that, obviously not the sort of total breakdown that Pink undergoes. I don't entirely agree that the film has no sense of a solution, because I think in some ways the end spells the solution out fairly clearly. Well, I think, I suppose what I'm talking about is that sort of, particularly the madness or the depression that can hit you when you're on the road, particularly the sort of American hotel room syndrome, where you're surrounded by a lot of friends and a lot of noise and so on, and yet somehow you can become extremely isolated. But of course, it's not an everlasting event. So there are all sorts of ways out of it. Just time will get you out of it by moving you somewhere else. Oh, because people constantly feel alone, even if bands aren't necessarily the best friends that you can have, because simply by working together you can be friends at one time and angry with each other another, and so on. And people get extremely lonely even in family situations. They can become isolated. I mean, I think that's just a fact of life, that people do get lonely or do get isolated, even when they're surrounded by people they know. Well, I don't really know why. I mean, I think I'm surprised really that you think that performers are going to be better equipped to break themselves of something than other people. I think that would be an entirely different sort of film, and possibly less realistic. I think the ways people do, it's fairly complicated sometimes to make yourself happy when you're unhappy. The film's trying to show why someone, the more elaborate events that eventually lead to a particular sort of breakdown. Well, I believe kids do need education. What the film is saying, they don't need bad education. They don't need the sort of teachers that certainly were around when I was a kid, at school 25 years ago or whatever. And in fact, those sort of teachers do still exist. And that's what the film is complaining about, and that's what why the children, or why the fantasy of breaking the school up occurs. It's an enormous resentment against someone in power, ill-treating people.
What is good education and what is bad education? What is for you good education?
Good education is teaching of a sort that teaches children to enjoy learning. I had a bad education to begin with at prep school, up until the age of about 12. Some of which was definitely bad. I mean, I can remember teachers there who were just frightening and taught nothing. And after that, a good education. I remember just being frightened of these people who were going to throw things at me or hit me or pull my hair or whatever. I was never filled with a zeal to learn. Because of that, I just was frightened and didn't want to go to school. I hated going to school, and I had no interest in it. It's sort of, I don't think you learn by fear. Oh yes, I mean there are definitely still masses and masses of bad teachers. Teaching is relatively underpaid, and which helps to contribute to relatively low standards. Quite. I mean, there are lots of very good and very dedicated teachers, but there's also, it's very difficult, apart from anything else, certainly within the English system, to ever get rid of bad teachers. The only ways to dismiss teachers are if they behave absolutely abominably.
Do you have yourself children?
Yeah.
How many?
2.
2 children. What age?
11 and 7.
And what do you do with that experience from the early times to give them a good education?
Well, I hopefully send them to the sort of schools that I think will give them a good education, meaning schools that have a good atmosphere where learning is interesting. I think it's less important to achieve very high academic standards because it'll last much longer if there's a general interest in what's being learned. Yes, I've been interested in cars for years, ever since I was about 5 years old. And I just like driving them. I like racing cars. I've just, never stopped. To tell you the truth, I've got other cars as well as a Bugatti, but for me, the Bugatti is the finest vintage racing car ever made. Of the particular era, it was the best, and it's a very beautiful thing in itself. It looks marvellous. Even the engine looks... it was designed to look good as well as perform well, and it drives... they're very exciting cars to drive.
But do you drive with that car on normal roads then in England, or what do you do with that car?
Well, I drive some of the time on roads in England and some of the time on racetracks. So it's a racing car, really, but it was also, in those days, you could use your race cars on the road as well.
What is your wife saying to that sort of hobby or sport?
I think generally she likes it.
But you can't go out with the children with that car.
Oh yes, you can. They can go and ride. They can ride in it. Yes. Oh yes, of course it's important. I live in England and I like living in England. So I'm part of English society. But like most sort of fairly major issues, it's very hard to see the right way out of it. I don't particularly like Tory government, but I'm not certain that a Labour government would make things any better. And in terms of employment, I think I prefer Labour policies towards the health service and things like that. But I'm not sure that anyone's going to find an easy solution to the economic problems of Europe generally. I think perhaps in a small way, and I think you have to. You don't have to do anything. It gives a greater sense of purpose and satisfaction to feel that you're attempting to say something that you believe, rather than say gotta get your baby again, which is a popular message in music. I think music is generally politically not a very strong force, and there was a feeling, I don't know, that 10 or 12 years ago that rock music might become a force, and I don't think it ever achieved that in any way. I think it's fairly minor, but I think anything that perhaps either makes people think or expresses a view that people concur with is a good thing. No, I don't think I really did. I think there was a confusion because the music or the bands sometimes appeared to be the focal point of rallying people or whatever. And it gave the impression of being a focal point with a stage and all the rest of it. But in fact, it was more... I don't think it was that. I think it was more like a flag for a movement, if you see what I mean. It was not a power in its own right. It simply helped make a graphic representation of something. There's someone else yesterday. The Rolling Stones are a good example in that respect, that however outrageous they are, and they still can be, they're still rock establishment. They're not... They just are part of a mainstream of rock music. Well, as far as Pink Floyd is concerned, not particularly. I think what we do now is what we've developed into doing because we like doing this sort of show. I wouldn't see that we would do anything wildly exciting by going into a smaller venue and doing a different sort of show. I mean, that's how I feel at the moment. I think playing music in small clubs and so on is one of life's treats. I mean, it's a good thing. But I think for me, anyway, the answer would be to play with other people. Absolutely. But I think the solution is not necessarily to go... I think you can still have a bad relationship between an audience and a performer, even in a small place. it's not actually about size. It's about the nature of the performance and the understanding between the audience and the performers.
What do you mean by understanding?
The comprehension of what they're coming to see and their attitude to the show. I mean, I think quite often the shows and performers there's just a confusion about what the whole thing is about, and for a lot of people they just come to, throw firecrackers and shout, and it's more like what they're really coming to is not so much a performance that they're coming to watch, so much as an event that they want to take part in. And it's that sort of confusion that needs to be ironed out. Then perhaps there need to be other sorts of events for people who want to go and throw fireworks and so on. But they're obviously frustrated in some way. They obviously need a different sort of entertainment.